Welcome to Political Ideologies Simplified, what you need to know. Ever wondered why politics seems so complicated? You're not alone. Let's break it down together. Did you know that only 20% of Americans trust the government? Shocking, right? And yet, political ideologies shape everything around us. From the laws we follow to the shows we watch, politics is everywhere. In this series, we'll explore the hidden corners of political thought. We'll go beyond the usual left and right. You'll discover new ideas and surprising connections. For instance, did you know that Finland is one of the freest countries in the world? Or that more than 4 billion people are online, shaping and reshaping political discourse every day? These are just a few of the amazing facts we'll uncover. We'll dive into how pop culture mirrors political beliefs. Ever noticed the political messages in The Hunger Games or Black Mirror? You will soon. We'll also look at how technology is changing politics. Imagine voting securely online or living in a smart city that responds to your needs. It's closer than you think. And there's more. We'll discuss eco-politics and the fight for a sustainable future. Plus, we'll see how globalization mixes and matches different ideologies. Grassroots movements? They're the heart of political change. From Black Lives Matter to the global climate strike, ordinary people are making extraordinary impacts. By the end of this series, you'll see politics in a whole new light. Ready to get started? Let's dive in and simplify the world of political ideologies together. Chapter 1: Beyond Left and Right, Unpacking the Political Spectrum. Welcome to the first chapter of Political Ideologies Simplified, what you need to know. Today, we're diving into the political spectrum. But wait, it's not just about left and right. There's so much more to it. Let's break it down. Did you know that the left-right political spectrum started in the French Revolution? The radicals sat on the left and the conservatives on the right. Simple, right? Not quite. Imagine a grid instead of a line. On one axis, we have economic control, government versus free market. On the other, we have personal freedoms, authoritarian versus libertarian. This 2D model is called the political compass. Take the political compass test online. It places you on this grid. Many find they aren't as far left or right as they thought. It's eye-opening. Here's a fun fact. In the 2016 US election, both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump challenged the left-right norm. Sanders, a democratic socialist, and Trump, a right-wing populist, showed the spectrum's complexity. Let's talk about libertarianism. It's about personal freedom. Think Ron Paul. Less government control in both economic and social issues. Government is best which governs least, said Henry David Thoreau. Then there's authoritarianism. It's about strong central power and limited personal freedoms. North Korea is a stark example. But remember, it's a spectrum, not a label. Countries can be authoritarian in some ways and not others. Centrism, often overlooked, is another spot on the spectrum. Centrists advocate for a balance of market and social policies. They often seek practical solutions. Bill Clinton is a classic centrist. Now, what about lesser-known ideologies? Have you heard of anarcho-syndicalism? It's about self-managed workplaces and direct democracy. It's far left and libertarian. Noam Chomsky often speaks about it. Or eco-fascism? It combines authoritarianism with environmental concerns. It's controversial and extreme. It's an example of ideology pushing boundaries. Did you know that Finland ranks high in personal and economic freedoms? According to the Human Freedom Index, it's one of the freest countries. That's a balance many ideologies strive for. Chapter 2: Political Ideologies in Pop Culture, Unseen Influences. Welcome to the second chapter. Today, we're exploring political ideologies in pop culture. You might not realize it, but politics are everywhere in entertainment. Let's start with movies. Ever seen V for Vendetta? It's based on anarchism. The story critiques totalitarianism and promotes individual freedom. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. How about The Hunger Games? It's a take on authoritarianism and class struggle. The capital's control over the districts mirrors real-world dictatorships. TV shows are no different. The West Wing offers a deep dive into American liberalism. It shows idealistic governance, balancing social justice and economic policy. And don't forget, Black Mirror. It often explores techno-dystopias, hinting at techno-authoritarianism. The episode, Nosedive, critiques social media's impact on personal freedoms. Scary but fascinating. Music too reflects ideologies. Rage Against the Machine's lyrics often criticize capitalist and authoritarian systems. Remember their song, Killing in the Name? It's a powerful anthem against oppressive authority. On the flip side, country music often leans conservative. Johnny Cash's "Ragged Old Flag" shows pride in American values and traditions. It's a nod to cultural conservatism. Books are rich with political ideas. George Orwell's 1984 is a classic. It warns about the dangers of totalitarianism. Big Brother is watching you, a quote everyone knows, even if they haven't read the book. Then there's Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. It champions libertarian ideals and the free market. Who is John Galt symbolizes the individual's struggle against state control. Comics also weigh in. Marvel's X-Men series explores civil rights and social justice. Mutants fighting for equality mirrors real-world struggles. Chapter 3, Eco-Politics, the Green Wave and its Philosophies. Welcome to Chapter 3. Today, we're diving into eco-politics. It's all about the intersection of politics and the environment. Let's explore the Green Wave. Eco-politics isn't new. It gained traction in the 1970s with the rise of environmental movements. Think Earth Day, which started in 1970. It's a global celebration of our planet. At the core of eco-politics is sustainability. This means meeting our needs without compromising future generations. It's a balancing act between development and conservation. One big name in eco-politics is Greta Thunberg. She's inspired millions with her Fridays for Future movement. How dare you, she challenged world leaders at the UN, demanding action on climate change. Eco-socialism combines environmental concerns with socialist principles. It argues that capitalism's focus on profit harms the planet. Naomi Klein's book, This Changes Everything, is a great read on this topic. Eco-fascism, on the other hand, is extreme. It advocates for authoritarian control to protect the environment. It's controversial and often criticized for its radical views. Data shows the impact of ignoring eco-politics. The World Health Organization reports that 9 out of 10 people breathe polluted air. It's a global health crisis that needs urgent attention. Green parties are political groups dedicated to eco-politics. The German Green Party, for instance, has been influential since the 1980s. They've pushed for renewable energy and sustainable policies. Did you know? Costa Rica aims to be carbon neutral by 2050. They're investing heavily in renewable energy. It's a leading example of eco-politics in action. Permaculture is another eco-political concept. It's about creating sustainable agricultural systems. The idea is to work with nature, not against it. It's practical and environmentally friendly. In eco-politics, there's also the concept of degrowth. This challenges the idea that economies must always grow. Instead, it promotes well-being and sustainability over GDP. Renewable energy is a hot topic in eco-politics. Solar and wind power are growing rapidly. The International Energy Agency predicts that renewables will supply 30% of global electricity by 2024. Urban farming is another trend. Cities like New York and Tokyo are embracing rooftop gardens. It's a step towards local, sustainable food production. Chapter 4, Technopolitics, the Digital Revolution's Impact on Ideological Thinking. Welcome to Chapter 4. Today, we're exploring technopolitics. It's the blend of technology and politics. The digital revolution is changing how we think and govern. First up, let's talk about digital democracy. It's using technology to enhance democratic processes. Think online voting and digital public consultations. Estonia is a leader here. They've had online voting since 2005. Social media is a double-edged sword in technopolitics. It's a tool for free speech but also misinformation. In the Arab Spring, social media helped organize protests. It was a powerful force for change. Tech giants like Facebook and Google have huge influence. They shape public opinion and control information flow. This raises concerns about privacy and power. Who really controls the internet? Artificial intelligence, AI, is another hot topic. It's changing industries and politics. There's potential for AI to improve public services, but it also poses ethical questions. Stephen Hawking once warned, AI could spell the end of the human race. Blockchain technology offers transparency and security. It's being explored for voting systems and public records. Imagine voting in a tamper-proof system. It's a game changer for democracy. Cybersecurity is crucial in technopolitics. Cyber attacks can disrupt governments and economies. In 2017, the WannaCry ransomware attack affected over 200,000 computers across 150 countries. Data privacy is a major concern. The Cambridge Analytica scandal showed how personal data can be misused. It sparked debates on data protection and regulation. 5G technology promises faster, more reliable internet. But it's also a geopolitical issue. Countries are racing to lead in 5G, with concerns about security and control. Digital authoritarianism is on the rise. Some governments use technology to monitor and control citizens. China's social credit system is an example. It tracks and scores citizens' behavior. Chapter 5: Cultural Crossroads, Ideologies in a Globalized World. Welcome to Chapter 5. Today, we're diving into how globalization affects political ideologies. It's a fascinating mix of ideas and cultures. Globalization connects us like never before. Trade, travel, and the internet bring the world together. This impacts political ideologies, blending and reshaping them. Let's start with cosmopolitanism. It's the idea that all humans belong to a single community. Think of the United Nations. They work on global issues like peace and human rights. Cultural exchange is a key part of globalization. It spreads ideas and influences ideologies. Did you know that K-pop has fans worldwide? It's a cultural export from South Korea that's gone global. On the flip side, some worry about cultural homogenization. This is when local cultures get overshadowed by global ones. Fast food chains like McDonald's are everywhere, symbolizing this trend. Global issues need global solutions. Climate change, for instance, is a worldwide challenge. The Paris Agreement is an example of countries coming together to address it. Migration is another big topic. People moving across borders bring diverse perspectives. They enrich cultures but also spark debates on immigration policies. Populism is rising in response to globalization. It often opposes immigration and promotes national sovereignty. Brexit is a prime example. The UK voted to leave the EU, wanting more control over its laws and borders. Free trade agreements like NAFTA show economic globalization. They reduce trade barriers between countries. Critics argue they benefit corporations more than workers. Did you know? Over 70 million people were forcibly displaced in 2018. This includes refugees and asylum seekers. It's a global crisis needing cooperative solutions. Language is a part of this cultural mix. English is the global lingua franca. It's spoken by billions and facilitates international communication. Globalization also spreads political ideas. Social media platforms like Twitter amplify voices worldwide. Activists from different countries can connect and collaborate. Education is evolving too. Many universities offer online courses accessible globally. This democratizes education but also highlights the digital divide. Let's talk about hybrid ideologies. These combine elements from different cultures. For example, Brazil's political system blends Western democracy with indigenous traditions. Economic globalization affects ideologies as well. The rise of multinational corporations influences politics. Companies like Apple and Google operate across borders, impacting local economies and regulations. Human rights are a global concern. Organizations like Amnesty International work worldwide to protect them. They highlight issues from various countries, promoting a universal standard. Chapter 6: Grassroots Movements, Ideologies Born from the Streets. Welcome to Chapter 6. Today, we're exploring grassroots movements. These are political ideologies born from the streets. They often start small but can have a big impact. Grassroots movements are bottom-up. They begin with ordinary people. It's about collective action and local solutions. Let's start with the civil rights movement in the US. It began in the 1950s and 60s. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. pushed for equality. His "I Have a Dream" speech is iconic. Another powerful movement is Black Lives Matter, BLM. It started in 2013 after the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's killer. BLM fights against police brutality and racial injustice. Women's rights have also seen grassroots action. The Women's March in 2017 was one of the largest protests in US history. Millions marched for gender equality and women's rights. Occupy Wall Street is another example. It began in 2011 to protest economic inequality. We Are the 99% became a rallying cry against the top 1%'s wealth and power. Grassroots movements often use social media. It's a powerful tool for organizing and spreading messages. Hashtags like #MeToo bring global attention to local issues. Environmental activism also thrives at the grassroots level. Extinction Rebellion started in the UK in 2018. They use non-violent protests to demand action on climate change. Indigenous movements are crucial too. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe protested against the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2016. They highlighted environmental and indigenous rights issues. Did you know? Over 4 million people participated in the global climate strike in 2019. It's one of the largest environmental protests ever, inspired by Greta Thunberg. Grassroots movements often face challenges. They can lack resources and face opposition. But their strength lies in their passionate supporters. Farmers' protests are another example. In India, farmers protested against new agricultural laws in 2020. It was one of the largest protests in history, drawing international attention. Community organizing is key in grassroots movements. It's about building local networks and empowering people. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals is a classic guide on this. Youth activism is on the rise. Young people are leading movements for climate action, gun control, and more. They're using their voices to demand change.